It's not about changing everything and becoming an AI expert. It's about becoming AI literate for the expert that you already are.
Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we get real about what it takes to succeed, whether it's in business, life, or both. I'm talking to game-changing and visionary women who've broken barriers, built empires, and redefined success on their own terms. They'll share their strategies, secrets, and the no BS advice you need to rise to the top. I'm your host, Jennifer Justice, also known as JJ. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice. Today, we have Sehreen Noor Ali. She is the founder of Tequira Labs. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for coming. Back to school time.
I know.
Much quieter in your house.
It's glorious. I love my kids, but it's glorious.
Yeah. I know. Like we were just saying, it's like bittersweet because neither of us like to get up early in the morning. And that, unfortunately, is part of it. At least I don't have to make them lunches anymore. I used to have to do that.
Isn't it so freeing? Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on today. I know you have a super interesting background that is a very big buzz word in AI, and would love to get in and say, first of all, let's talk about Tequira Labs and what it is. And then after that, we'll get into how you got here.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the founder of Tequira Labs. I launched companies for a long time, and now I launch people. So executives and leaders who are at a juncture questioning what they want their next ambitious chapter to be, I actually help them align to it and launch it. So taking all those years of experience building multiple startups, now I get to work individually with people. And it's been more fun than I thought it would be, to be honest.
And so what was your aha moment that you're like, this needs to happen? At what point in your career?
It was when I was building the venture-backed startup. So my daughter, I have two daughters who are 11 and 8. And when my 8-year-old was 4, she got a devastating diagnosis. And we were in the middle of building this pediatric AI company. And I remember we were in the hospital for 3 months. We were supposed to be there for 7 days. And I tried working from the hospital. And I remember we got back on October 31st. We missed the Halloween. We got back at night. And the next day, I pitched Chelsea Clinton on Sleuth. And I look back at that chapter of intensity in my life and I was like, I'm so glad I gave life my all. And when we decided to sunset Sleuth, I also realized I am so incredibly burnt out and I still have more to give in life. And so I'm both super ambitious about my family and I'm super ambitious about my career. And I think a lot of us are like that, but we're never told that there's another possibility. And so Tequira Labs is about aligning people to that possibility and letting them be ambitious in the ways that they want, but actually bringing a rigor of how to launch themselves and their company to it.
And so what does that entail? How do you work with people?
So like any company, I experimented my way through this. So I had some clients that were our venture-backed friends. And one of the things I did was actually spend some time on inner work. So not like therapy, but like, what do you really want? Like, what lights you up? And once we know that someone is actually internally aligned and letting them see the possibility of what they could be and true to themselves, then we start working on their audience, who their ideal clients are, because that's actually where a lot of businesses fail. They say they want to work with everyone, but actually you need to start with an early set of consumers that you want to target, knowing how to target them. And then we work on your go-to-market. So again, it's very similar to starting up a startup, but bringing in like really clear thinking behind what you want and what the market wants and how you can fit that.
And how do you do that? So many people that's their whole life goal. It's like, what do I want? What makes me happy? How do you distill that in such a short period of time so you know how you can help them?
I think the magic ingredient is space. How often do any of us get to just sit and talk about ourselves and have someone reflect back what that looks like to the outside world? I think sadly and unfortunately, a lot of us minimize what our contributions are. And to have an outside voice and have the space be like, actually, that means this. Like you discounted that, but actually to the market, it means this. And it sounds like you light up like that. So part of it is just being the portal and the container. And
all in a professional setting though, like not your personal setting, or is this a combined?
It's combined.
Exercise?
You know, I think a lot of people want more time with their family, for example. And how do you work less time, make it more saturated, still make a lot of money, but also have time for your family? So this sounds trite, but there is a little bit of the why in there. So I just got off a call with a client and who's very equity focused. And for me, I also need to understand, where does this come from? You might take it for granted that you care about health and equity, but where does this come from? Because I can keep going back to that origin story as a way to align yourself. So if you know who you are, that filter helps you when you look at opportunities that come your way. It's like, do they fit my values? Number one. And then are they my ideal client? Number two. And so it makes everything a shortcut instead of like kind of spraying and praying with your professional service and your consulting. You're like, no, this is who I am. This is what I want. And this is what I do. So it's both. The ingredients are clear thinking and space.
Right. And with that, then you will attract the people that then will.
Well, it's not, you attract it by going to market. You go to attract it by having the system that goes to market. But because you're clear on who you want to work with and who you want to say no to, it just goes faster. And I think saying no is super important too.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was just served a podcast episode I was on with Elise-elect, and it literally, the headline is, saying no is more saying no is more powerful than saying yes, which is one of my quotes. So it literally, that was like 10 minutes ago
that's so funny.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, stars are aligned.
Exactly. And that comes from wisdom, right? You don't get there without a lot of life experience being like, oh, actually.
And it's hard to stay in that mind frame, right? It's like sometimes, like when the economy is down, or your business isn't as up, because there's going to be up and down months. There just are. That you're just like, oh, I got to say yes to everything. I can't say, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Or you want to help so many people.
Yeah, and the noise.
You're doing that own exercise yourself, right? To figure out who you want to work with. Well,
it's funny because. So I named it Tequira Labs. So Tequira means take care in Latin. And the labs part is because I actually do like a different set of things. Like my main business is that I help executives and leaders, but there's also room in my life to experiment with, like, one of my clients is a pediatric venture studio, so that I keep one foot in pediatrics because I'm so passionate about it. And so it's almost like people talk about a portfolio life, but you can also have a portfolio business if you're super systematic about it too. And then it lets you know, okay, like I have 10% of my time can go for a client that I really care about, but that doesn't have the budget, but like checks my box on impact, for example.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And so how long have you had the business?
About a year.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then, so let's go back a little bit and then we'll get more into it. Like, how did you start? I love hearing women's stories in particular. And I think so often, as you just said, we don't have the space to think about things, and we don't have the space to understand what our core, like capabilities are, what we're really good at, what we love. So it's like pivoting seems really difficult, in particular if you're like running a family, et cetera.
And it was a pretty hard pivot. Like I was a fairly, I had a public profile as a venture-backed founder in Pediatric AI. One of my investors was Gary Vaynerchuk. Like I had a great suite of investors. And so going from the startup narrative to what now is like a bootstrapping narrative is very unsexy, frankly. And so I was gifted coaching by a very good friend. And that coaching on my first call, I put my hands up like this and I said, I just need space in my life. And I always come back to that because she made me realize that actually what I really needed was not actually to find a new job immediately, but to like decompress. And so it's really annoying how effective that decompression was. And so I said no to a very lucrative opportunity by a well-known fund in San Francisco that focused on AI to create another AI company. I turned out another job, and I was like, to say no was such a flex in my career because I usually said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I knew what I wanted to do next. I just knew it wasn't what I needed. And I really just gave myself time to be like, if I'm not feeling it in my body to say yes, it feels like a no. So one of them, the one with the AI focused venture studio, I just could see myself being cranky with my kids. I could see myself not having time to like take care of my health. And I looked at that flash and I was like, why would I do the same thing over again? First of all, that's boring. And it's like not my personality not to like, I had to stop and question it. And then when I actually like launched my consulting company and I soft launched it, I thought I was going to do one type of business. And then I got a client and then I actually asked her to fire me. Because I was like, dude, I can only get you this way. Like I can get you 65% of the way, but I just realized I can't get you the last 35 because that's not my core area of expertise. And then I had a couple of other people hire me for something that looks more like what I'm doing now. And so I let the market tell me what they wanted me for.
Interesting. So when you were doing this, so back to this like other job that you got offered, right?
Yeah.
And what you're advising people now and the why and what you're doing, is there a way to meet in what you're doing, make that job that you turned down, meet what people want? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, because so many of these startups people feel like they have to work 27 out of 24 hours a day, or the hustle culture. And I'm so busy. And is it a way to, are you offering a way to show them how to work less in things that you traditionally had demanded more, or not to work in the positions that are venture backed and they're going to be on you, 27 out of 24 hours a day? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's more about helping them understand what you're signing up for and then them knowing if that's the right path for them. So it first comes from internal alignment, because if you're going to do a venture-backed startup, there's just a set of rules that you're signing up for. It just is.
Yeah.
You can't.
And those rules can never change.
They can never change, right? Or AI might change it a little bit, but you still need to be working a lot, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a big vision and it's like intensive, it's capital intensive, then maybe having a venture-backed startup is the way to go. But if you have something that you can build on yourself or vibe code or whatever, then maybe that's the way to go because you have more flexibility. You don't have a cap table. And so it's, I think, being very eyes wide open about what you want and what each of these options actually mean, because you're not going to change the playbook.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking. All right. So let's go back to, how did you start? Where did you start in your career?
I started at the State Department at a time when digital
progression to where you are now.
Yeah, so clearly, back then the government actually didn't have as bad of a reputation. I'm just gonna say.
Was it because you were optimistic and young and going, oh, it's I can change the world?
Yeah, I will keep political commentary off of this, but I started at a time where I really actually wanted to do international development, but they weren't hiring for that, so I ended up doing foreign affairs at the cross section of digital diplomacy and foreign affairs. And I was there at a time like Jack Dorsey came and talked to us. Like we had a closed session with Jack Dorsey. That's how kind of new and upcoming Twitter was. And I worked on some very interesting countries. And that's where I think I didn't mean to fall into tech, but I did. And I worked actually on a part of diplomacy that's lesser known, but it's called public diplomacy. And it really is how other citizens of other countries think of the US. So it's not about what other foreign officials think. It's about the people to people relationship. And that set up a nice foundation for when I moved to New York and joined startups.
Amazing. Okay. So then how did you transition out of that? What was next?
It was hard to transition, like DC and New York don't speak the same language. And I learned that the hard way. But someone took a chance on me and was like, look, if you can do what you did for the government, like this is easy as pie. And so I was an early hire at an ed tech startup. And then I went to a few ed tech startups after that before I started my own, mostly in business development, revenue generation, and then brought all of that to when I started Sleuth.
And Sleuth, how long ago was that you started it?
We started right before the pandemic. So January 2020.
And so, but you said it's pediatric AI, which is way before people
talked about it.
talked about it at all.
Yeah. We didn't start talking about it until it became important to talk about it.
And so how did you know about it? What was that whole process? Like how,
Part of it was serendipity, just being at the right spot at the right time. My daughter had, before she got diagnosed, and before we even knew that she was going to have such a severe diagnosis, I still had to take some time off to figure out some stuff for her when she was like 18 months. And when I was ready to go back to work, I saw a Facebook post about an accelerator, a startup accelerator program down at Brooklyn Navy Yard. And I applied and I was like, why not? It's only a 3-month delay in terms of finding a job. And I felt strongly that I was sitting on this insight as a parent who struggled so much to get health information. I actually had to quit her job. And then when I realized that so many people were like me, that they had to silently quit to figure out what their kid, I was like, there's something here. And so I got up on stage at the first week of our accelerator. I was the only parent who was out as a parent because I live in Harlem. Navy Yard is an hour and 20 minutes away. And I made it super clear to the organizers, I'm not staying for happy hour. I got to get back home to my kids. And so I just really owned what I was as a parent and the insight. And that ended up attracting my co-founder, who was like, this is such an interesting problem. We can do something with it because crowdsourced information from parents is actually very accurate. And that was the start of a very fun ride.
And how long was the company around?
For 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the problem you were solving? And
we were solving the problem that parents didn't have data to understand what they were seeing in their kids.
Right.
So we crowdsourced data from 62,000 parents and had a proprietary database of 360 different benchmarks that you could assess your child under, but the UX was really novel. So you would take quizzes about your kid and then you would almost get like a weather report. Like, this is totally normal that your 3-year-old is hitting other kids at school. Don't worry, it gets better at 4. And the idea was that if parents are better equipped about what they're seeing in their child, they can either go get help earlier because so many kids get delayed intervention, or stand down and just enjoy life.
Mm-hmm. Right. And not worry about it.
Yeah. And it was an amazing ride. I pitched President Biden. The next day I met Gary Vaynerchuk, and he, very atypically was like, I want to invest in you. Like, I have all these like crazy stories from that time because I was really living at the extreme, which was fun, but also led to a lot of burnout.
What do you mean you living at the extreme?
So my daughter was hospitalized, right? So suddenly, not like I had no prior notice that what was going to happen. So we got, she had a major brain surgery on August 24th, and we got out October 31st. That was like prime building time, right? Yeah. For our startup. And I was trying to build, and then for anyone that's had a loved one who's sick, it's common knowledge that it doesn't end when you get out of the hospital. So she came out not being able to eat. She couldn't even, don't mean to be graphic. She couldn't even swallow her own spit. We were in a medical crisis, she couldn't eat anything and whatever. And so I was living at the extreme. Like, I had help, I had a caregiver, but psychologically I was either building the company or was taking care of my family in deeply extreme ways.
Yeah. My God. Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
And and you were randomly, you thought of the idea because you noticed some issues.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning. Yeah. And then how did AI play in it? How is this a new technology? Like, what were those challenges? Because I feel like even now people trying to find the right engineers for it, it's like really difficult.
For people and technical experts who've been in it, like, this new AI thing is new to everyone else, but not new to them, right? So It was not new to my co-founder, who is a data scientist. And we did a lot of natural language processing on the data that we had. And then we started to use it in ways that more of the market was using it. So we collected some information and then would tell parents, this is what parents like you did. And then we would vet it with a doctor. But some of that generated data, then we would have human vetting on, which is like more where the conversation is right now. And the positioning of AI is fundamentally different than it was 2 years ago. And I say pediatric AI now, but I didn't then. And I still don't think consumers love it. I don't think the everyday consumer is like, yes, please give me an AI based app about my kid, to be totally honest. I use AI a ton in a very different way than we did at Sleuth because I was not the engineer at Sleuth. But now I am a heavy user of AI tools. It powers my complete back end. I train people on it. And I use it for leverage. And so, for example, I have a custom GPT for my kids' schools. So like I have all the handbooks are there and whatever. And it's like, today was the first day of drop off. I actually didn't remember. I was like, is drop off at 7:50 or 8? I just like asked the GPT on my way. And I was like,
So you mean like an agent?
Yeah. So on Chat GPT, I have created a custom GPT within that with all my kids, like family handbooks and information, because who has time to scroll through their emails?
Exactly. Right. And so let's talk more about that, because I also just read a statistic how women are using it way less. And then it seems like everybody's talking about it, but isn't it like a ridiculously low statistic of the people who use it, like in the single digit percentage?
I think it's increasing though. I read that it's increasing like pretty steadily.
Still, like to me, it's like I use it all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And so talk a little bit more like a custom GPT. Like, what does that really mean? Like to the people, because a lot of people will be listening going, I have no idea what that means. They barely know what Chat GPT is.
Okay. So let me frame it a little bit. The way that I think that AI can really change people's lives is when it's used almost as like a second brain to yourself, right? And so I believe pretty strongly that the use case is giving it a lot of context about you so that it can shortcut the menial tasks. And so, for example, I have an AI second brain about my business, and I have multiple tabs on a Google document about the fundamentals of my business. And then I have a custom GPT, which is a chat essentially, like on Chat GPT that is trained on what it knows about my business. So that when I ask it questions about my business, it already has prior knowledge and keep pointing me towards my fundamentals. And I tweak it, right? The mentality is you're constantly tweaking the context because you're constantly evolving. So that's one. So just to frame it, that it should superpower you is my belief with knowledge about you.
Right. That's all within Chat GPT. You can do that within Chat GPT.
Yeah. Totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Like $20 a month. And so, for my kids' schools, there are 2 different schools. I'm new to both, which is already like anxiety inducing. And they have 2 different schedules. So I have a Chat GPT where I've uploaded each of the family handbooks. I also have all of the calendars, right? Because if I want to plan overlapping, like a trip that overlaps both, I have to ask it. But like, why would I go to my email and manually scroll through that when I've created something that has that knowledge already uploaded?
And will it populate your calendar?
So Perplexity's Comet does, and that's why I use it. So Perplexity, Comet, they've positioned themselves as an AI assistant. And so I actually copy and pasted an email from the school, and I was like, create calendar invites for all of this, and I will skip or approve, and it actually will send an invite, which is game changing.
Yeah. So sorry, keep going about your custom GPT and other things that you utilize and et cetera.
I mean, I'm a huge user of Granola, which is an audio transcript for calls, right? My clients all know.
Granola? I haven't even heard of that one.
Oh, Granola's great because it's not invasive. It's not like the other meeting recorders where it's like sitting there as like a video pop-up. Yeah, it's very elegant. And I always tell all my clients that I'm recording, right? Because on the back end, I'm analyzing a lot of what they said and, giving them the documents. I use Perplexity instead of Google.
Yeah.
And
But why Perplexity instead of ChatGPT instead of Google?
I like that Perplexity shows me what it's sourcing from. So when I search something, I can actually more easily on Perplexity go to the source, like if it's Reddit or an actual article. So I feel like it's my researcher, and ChatGPT is my thought partner.
Wow. Okay. Good. And so when you're doing this, and are you training the people that you're working with how to use these?
Yeah, I am. Like, I am an insane user of AI. And to your point, I think that there's different interest in the market on how to use it. So if
Yeah.
my client is super interested in it, I will teach them. If they're not as interested in it, I don't push it on them. I think people come to it on their own. I will say, um, you know, I wish more people who are caregivers would use it because it's a major time save. Like I talk a lot about caregivers versus parenting. I'm a caregiver. My daughter has a lot of medical appointments. I don't have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And this has given me immense leverage. So just to give you like a little bit more of an advanced example of how I want to use AI, but I have not yet. At some point, she's going to take care of her own health. I have all the institutional knowledge. Like if I was an enterprise, you would say mom has the institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
My goal is to create independent, strong children. She needs to know this information, right? So like at some point I will put all the notes in a custom GPT. And when she's like 18 or 19, she can search, or it's like, she has a chronic dry eye. So she has a lens at the age of 8 in her eye, right? At some point when she takes care of her own ophthalmology appointments, she's going to need that history.
Yeah.
And it's not on the EMR.
Yeah.
And so I am really excited about the use case when it comes to family and pediatric health. And so my big goal, I'm going to put it out there, is like, I really want someone to fund me with a small amount of money to create a women's health experiment as a prototype to get the maternal health history from both sides of my family so I can pass it on to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are things we can do now. It's just about having the time to do it.
Yeah. Because isn't that part of the problem? It's like, there's all this like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Granola, which I never heard of.
Yeah.
What are the ones that are your assistant, Motion, whatever they are, all these
Yeah.
other, like, how do you know which ones are right? You can't ask them, you know what I mean? And then how do you train yourself on them? And like, who has the time? And then you have to pay for each subscription. And we all have tons of subscriptions, you know what I mean? Like,
so I have a couple thoughts on that. The first is sign up for Lenny's newsletter. So if you spend $200 on a Lenny newsletter subscription, you get 15 of these tools for free for a year. And so yes, it does over-index on coding tools, but there's like, Granola is part of it. Perplexity was part of it. And there's a couple others. You could start with that. I think the other big thing is it's about AI right now is about mindset. It is not about getting the right tools. It is about the experimentation and knowing in 2 weeks you might drop it for something else. For example, I was a huge user of Claude. I haven't opened it recently because I'm not doing a lot of writing right now. And I'm doing a lot of like setting up business stuff. And so I'm using ChatGPT. So the skill that we're talking about is the agility of tool use. It's not about the right tools.
Right. And Claude, so talk more about Claude. I've used it minimally. What is that known to be good for?
So people really like Claude for coding. And I have not vibe coded yet. I have actually let myself not vibe code because that's not that's not on my priority
list.
list.
What does vibe coding mean?
It's this idea that you can be not non-technical and with a couple of hours just, using Claude or Replit or something, like actually create an app. And I think it's cool and useful, and it's probably more useful for someone who's 20 years younger than me than it is for me, where it's like I'm a little bit more set on where I'm going and I don't really need to code. I want to do it out of sheer interest. But to your point about like there's so much out there, I think one of the things I've really trained myself to do is even say no to time wasting like that. It's like I say no to other things, but I also say no to like, I get that everyone else is vibe coding, but that is not what I need to do right now.
Right. Right. And, back to what you do for a living, right?
Right.
What's the purpose?
Right.
What do you really want to be doing? Spending time with your family or figuring out your app from vibe coding on Claude?
Yeah. And I think for your audience, I would think that I don't think it's about it's not about changing everything and becoming an AI expert. It's about becoming AI literate for the expert that you already are. Right. So how does it amplify your expertise? And that's how I use it with my clients and myself, and how I advocate for everyone to use it.
Yeah. I suppose it's a little bit like, do you need a Google suite? Do you need Canva? Do you need Microsoft Word, or do you need Adobe? Like, you know what I mean? Like once you figure out which one is best for what you do, right? You know which ones that you
and
need.
it'll switch, right? It's like, I'm a terrible cook, right? And I don't get all the fancy tools from like Williams Sonoma because I wouldn't even know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Right. But as I start to cook more, because I have more time with my family and like, that's a priority, maybe I will get the tool that's like a little fancier and I'll know how to use it. So it's the same thing in a kitchen. If you start knowing how to use different tools, that's like analogous to using your AI tools. Sometimes you'll need this. Sometimes you'll take a shortcut and you don't need this. Mm-hmm. And so it's more about the familiarity you have with using different tools and the idea that all of these tools will change. Like people were talking about Claude Code for months. And then now people are like, nah, like this other one is better. It's just going to keep happening. Everyone is going to change their opinion so many times about what these tools do. But it's important for like, what do you need it for? Like, what's your use case? Forget everyone else.
Yeah. But no, that's such great advice because it's so overwhelming and it's really hard to tell like what everything's for. Do you find you use it equally professionally and personally or weighted one way or another?
No, it's like 50-50.
Yeah. And then what about like what you teach your kids about AI and what they can use it for?
It's a really tough question. It's always on my mind, but I haven't done it yet. And I haven't done it because, my 8-year-old, thankfully, is too early for a phone. But she knows, she actually told me this morning, she's like, I just love ChatGPT. And I was like, why? Like, what do you even know about it? But, what's funny is that on the last day of school last year, we had a conversation and she really wanted to start a business. And so she's like, and because she has this idea in her head that starting a business just makes you a lot of money. And I was like, oh, let me explain to you. You have to work really hard. And so she wanted to come up with an idea. So I said, I opened up ChatGPT and I put it on voice mode. And I said, okay, tell it the kind of business you want. And so we went through it. And it gave her ideas of like Play-Doh or stickers or this and that. Ultimately, she cried because she didn't realize that like you couldn't just get free money. And I was like, yeah, okay, awesome.
Oh, fish, girl.
I know. Exactly. I was like, we don't have universal basic
income. Don't tell
yet.
her about the gender pay gap or we're
I know, right? And then my older kid, like I'm in that weird spot where she doesn't have a phone. She's 11 and a half. And I feel like I really need to figure out that before. But she knows, like I will talk to the kids about the tools that I use so they know that they can. But I want them to get the mindset and the skill that I just talked about. That would be my goal.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it that Einstein quote? Like you use books for research and but like everything else, like, it's fair game. It's like, as long as if there's something available to you, then you can use it, but like, make sure you have your critical thinking, et cetera.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because one thing that I've noticed, and I think this is where we get into a slippery slope with ChatGPT, is that when we outsource to it what we know about ourselves, then it's a super slippery slope. Yeah. So coming back and having that space and saying, this is what I want, and I'm going to go to it with my context.
Yeah.
Is huge. And I'm not sure, 11 is like a time where kids, you have similarly aged children, like they're still finding themselves. And so it's really important to me. I take this, because I was in pediatrics and I was in ed tech, I take privacy and cognitive development very, very seriously when it comes to AI.
Yeah. No, it's really smart. All right, let's switch a little bit back to Cura and talk. And if you are like, who is your ideal client? Not ideal. I don't want to say like somebody's not ideal, but like, who are the people that you can really help? What's
it's the people that already have success in their vertical and are wondering what's next for them. Yeah. So you have a reputation, you have the respect, you're known for good work, and you're kind of wondering, well, what's next for me? And so maybe it's because your kids are getting older, maybe it's because you want to pursue another passion. And the question really that you've been asking yourself is like, isn't there something else?
Right.
And
it's like time to ask that before, right?
No. You're like, please don't come to the bathroom with me. Like, that's what I tell my kids, like, please.
Yeah, exactly. And do you have other would you call yourself a coach? Would you call yourself?
It's funny. No, I call myself a strategist and a launch partner. I think coaching ends up being what people also feel, because there's a lot of kind of validation in the process and mirroring back. But I also know that there are some people who are looking for the combination of both, which is like being listened to and held and heard, but also like really getting into the brass tacks and actually just launching and getting out of the door. And because I love building companies and I love momentum, I wanted to offer both to the people that I work with.
And so all of these are usually founders, repeat founders. Doctors, a lot of senior physicians, MDs. They come from across like different verticals, but they're all kind of saying, look, I have so much more in me. And this previous context, I think I've been there, done that. And I want something else. Yeah. And so we work on like, what is that something else? Is it a startup? Is it an advisory service? Is it consulting? Is it, whatever. It's like a whole suite. And because my background is in business models, I very much can help them say, okay, look, you can expect to make this much. Maybe you need to go for a different client, right? I think sometimes women often undersell and they undermake. They often underpay, unfortunately, because they're not used to it too. They don't think they're worthy of buying the thing. I have a quote in that same podcast I mentioned earlier with Elise Elect. It's like, why am I doing all this just to get another Celine bag? It's like, okay, instead of spending the $4,000 or $5,000 on a Celine bag, which unfortunately that's what they are now. Yeah. Spend it on yourself and hire somebody, like you. So true. Like all that, you know what I mean? That's so true. Yeah. But we're not actually like, if I wasn't gifted coaching, I wouldn't have known to go to a coach. Yeah. It is life-changing because I was not used to getting help. Yeah. And I always were taught to like, just do it yourself. And I was like, I'm smart enough. I can do this. I can do this with AI. No, you can't. I'm sorry. You can't. You can do it on a professional level. No. Yeah. Not at all. No, I know. I get that too. It's somebody that, because as a lawyer, right? Like some women are like, I didn't know I could hire a lawyer to help me negotiate my compensation package. I'm like, how did you not know that? Like, I saw your post on that. I was like, this is genius. Yes, of course. Like, and then like, and their severance packages, but also because in the music industry, everyone has a lawyer all the time and talent does, executives do. And so I was, brought up in that. And one of my clients was like, telling me something and like, complaining about, this person or that. She's like, I know I'm not like, you're not my therapist, but like, and I said, I want to stop you right there because I don't care if you call me a lawyer, a strategic advisor, or an executive coach. I do all three of those things, but it's really, I'm doing the same thing. And I am your therapist. I'm your bestie and I am your lawyer and I'm your strategic advisor and I'm an executive coach. I'm all of those things. Yeah. In particular in this period of time, that's what I do. Right. And that's what our job is. And because we're women helping women, we know where we have been in the past, totally. And we know what kind of shit advice we've gotten in the past from people who've never maybe well-intentioned, but never sat in our, they've never walked an inch in our shoes. Yeah. So yeah, I totally, But because so much is mindset. Like if you had told me this a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have really believed you, but you realize that actually we are all just on the other side of another mindset, right? If we can crack the mindset, it's a totally different world for us. Yeah. But and so we say mindset as if it's like this light term. It might be actually the most important term. Yeah. It's critical, that we open ourselves up to this possibility that is not the norm that we've been socialized to believe. Yeah, true. Absolutely. I love it. Speaking my language. Well, speaking of worst advice we've ever received, I'd have to let you go. But the one question that we ask everyone on here, what is the worst advice you have ever received? I think the worst advice I've ever received is to follow your passion and to market to everyone. Because I mean, if you have to make money in this capitalist world, you better make sure that your passion has market alignment. Yeah. And marketing to everyone is the certain way to make zero money. Yeah, so true. Find your niche. And yes, if my daughter just follows her passions at 12 years old, she'll be making matcha and watching YouTube videos on tutorials and makeup. There we go. So this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on this episode
Thank
of Taking
you.
Care of Lady Business. So if people want to find you, how do they do that?
LinkedIn, Sehreen Noor Ali, and my website, tequiralabs.com.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for listening to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice. Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Lady Business podcast. If you're hospitalized or your security is threatened while traveling, they can get you home. I'm a MedJet member and have been for years. Everyone who travels should be. Enroll before your next trip at medjet.com. Thanks for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. And also share this episode with a friend who needs that extra push to own their success. If you want more strategy stories and exclusive content, follow us on TikTok at Taking Care of Lady Business, on Instagram at thejustice.dept and Jennifer Justice L, or visit our website at thejusticedept.com. Taking Care of Lady Business is a production of Lady Business LLC.